Good Wednesday evening, July 17th, and welcome to the NCWLIFE Evening News. I'm Grant Olson. Here are a few of the stories we have coming up for you tonight. Quincy police say a street fight and the display of an apparent firearm on Tuesday night led to the arrest of 2 men. Ballots go out this week for the August primary election, and the Wenatchee Valley Fire Department hopes voters will approve a new way to pay for fire protection. A heat advisory is in place through Sunday, with temperatures expected to reach well into the triple digits over the next few days. Your local weather forecast is straight ahead. A fire overnight at an irrigation pump house has left almost 280 people without landscape water in southwestern Wenatchee. The pump house pulls water from the nearby reclamation canal, and without it, the Millardale Irrigation District can't deliver water for its customers. District President Steve Sadler told NCWLIFE News the fire broke out about 11:15 last night and destroyed the shed, plus all the automation that regulates the water flow. It could be days before a temporary solution is put in place. Sadler says no fix is likely before the end of next week. The cause of the blaze is being investigated by the Wenatchee Valley Fire Marshal. The Eastmont School Board is considering 3 options for an Educational Programs and Operations, or EP&O, renewal levy in November. EP&O levies provide funding for educational items not funded by the state, including extracurricular activities, sports, music programs, and staff salaries and benefits. The district says the current levy rate of $1.70 per $1,000 of assessed value will not keep pace with projected expenditures, and reductions to student programs will be needed. The second option of $1.95 per $1,000 would require modest reductions to student programs, but most current programs could continue as offered. The third option increases that levy to $2.10 per $1,000, and the district says this amount would expand student programs and support, and said the board will hold a special meeting to take action on the recommendations on July 29th. A 2024 Ford F-250 is the latest tool the Chelan County Sheriff's Office is utilizing to respond to emergencies. In a press release, Sheriff Mike Morrison said his office received $66,000 in grant funding from the Washington State Department of Ecology to purchase the truck. The Sheriff's Office says the funding is dedicated to bolstering local and regional emergency response capabilities. The F-250 will help tow trailers and boats to help respond to spills, hazardous waste materials incidents, and other emergencies. The Sheriff's Office says the proper equipment allows response crews to better handle critical situations safely and swiftly. When we come back, the Chelan-Douglas Transportation Council is seeking public input on a newly developed plan to improve connections for walking and biking between local communities. And 3 Grant County Sheriff's deputies have undergone remedial driver training after a pair of vehicle collisions that happened last winter. I'm Grant Olson, and you're watching the NCWLIFE Evening News.
It's vacation season. While a trip to Hawaii sounds great, we know what you really want is an inflation vacation. That's why Abby's feeds a group of 4 to 6 people for less than $26. Enjoy an inflation vacation at Abby's. You can be a superhero tonight and treat your family to Abby's famous hometown hero. This giant features our classic pepperoni, tasty Italian sausage, and crisp green peppers, all layered together for a legendary feast. Don't miss this July special pizza at a very special price.
As sheriff, I arrested rioters, rapists, and mass murderers, locked up human traffickers who preyed on women and children. On my watch, everyone was accountable. Despite being the Attorney General for 12 years, Bob Ferguson does not take responsibility for the rapid increase in crime and homelessness, businesses moving out of state, and jobs lost. And he thinks he deserves a promotion?
Dave Reichert. What does RV stand for? Recreational vehicle or ruined vacation? At Click-It RV, we want you to have a fun, safe camping experience. So for the month of June, get to any Click-It RV store and get a professional propane leak test, tire pressure check, wheel bearings, roof, slide and battery test, and all inspections are free because we want you and yours to have a safe camping season. Thinking of upgrading? Check out the used selection of new and used top brands like Grand Design, Rockwood, Flagstaff, Winnebago, and more. So get to a Click-It RV store near you for a free inspection and keep your family safe.
In Digital Media Arts program, we learn about video production gear and editing by the combination of class projects and nonprofit work and employment.
It makes things happen.
Yeah.
It's pretty magical.
We work in the industry at the Wenatchee Road, NCWLIFE channel, and the Town Toyota Center events. Every day we work with industry standard equipment for a hands-on learning experience.
Ballots go out this week for the August primary election, and the Wenatchee Valley Fire Department hopes voters will approve a new way to pay for fire protection. A fire benefit charge would radically decrease the role of property taxes in paying for fire service, but impose a new cost based on square footage. Fire Chief Brian Brett tells NCWLIFE News that if voters allow it, the new charge could result in tax savings while also funding the Valley-wide fire department well into the future. He's holding public meetings on the proposal at local fire stations on both July 24th and July 27th. It needs a 60% supermajority to pass.
So we give up 33% of our revenue by reducing property taxes. So we have to make that back, and we make that back with the benefit charge, and that's based on the square footage of the occupancy. And it's divided in 3 categories between residential, apartment complexes, and commercial buildings.
And to a certain extent, you expect residential homeowners to see a bit of a decrease in the amount of tax they're paying for their fire protection, even though it would amount to better, more consistent revenue for your department.
Yes, currently, as it sits, 54% of the people pay what they currently pay or less. And the mechanics of it are, our budget can only grow by 1%. So as we get this growth we've had, which is between 10, 15, 17% year over year for several years, we don't get to capture that growth. We often get asked, well, we see all this growth, you have to be rolling in revenue. That's not the case. Microsoft, for example, could put $1 trillion worth of buildings in service today. We would get a little spike of new construction revenue. It would go on the tax roll the following year. Our rate would go down from $1.50 to, say, 50 cents with $1 trillion going into it, because we can only go up by 1%. With the fire benefit charge, we could charge the benefit to that new property that was placed in service, which would allow us to track for inflation, which would then allow us to not necessarily have to pass on any costs to anybody else in our jurisdiction.
The Chelan-Douglas Transportation Council is seeking public input on a newly developed plan to improve connections for walking and biking between local communities. The Pathways Master Plan aims to identify possible pathway alignments amongst 4 main corridors, including routes from Chelan to Manson, Leavenworth to Cashmere to Wenatchee, Malaga to Wenatchee and Rock Island to East Wenatchee. Local residents are invited to participate by completing a survey and contributing to an input map on the organization's website. Project representatives will also be available in a number of upcoming local farmers markets this month, starting tomorrow in Chelan, to answer questions and provide more information. Drivers can expect delays on Badger Mountain Road tomorrow. Douglas County road crews will be pre-level paving a section of Badger Mountain Road just outside of East Wenatchee city limits. The county says there will be 1-lane traffic with up to 20-minute delays. Motorists who want to avoid delays are advised to use Fancher Field Road to Eastmont Avenue. Crews will be working Thursday from 6:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. 3 Grant County Sheriff's deputies have undergone remedial driver training after a pair of vehicle collisions that happened last winter. The Sheriff's Office says, in addition, 1 deputy was suspended from duty, 2 deputies received a written reprimand, and 1 deputy was cited with a traffic infraction. The first collision happened in December when 2 Sheriff's Patrol cars ran into each other at Highway 17 and North Lake Road outside Moses Lake while responding to a fatal accident near the airport. The other involved a single deputy in January. Both crashes were investigated by the Washington State Patrol. All 3 deputies have since completed their discipline and remedial training and returned to full duty. Coming up next, we've been talking this week with Palisades rancher Molly Linville, who operates 6,000 acres of cattle land in Moses Coulee. In tonight's feature story, we will bring you the final installment of our visit to Molly's ranch. Triple-digit heat returns tomorrow with temperatures getting even hotter this weekend. I'll have all the details coming up in your full local weather forecast. That and much more still to come tonight. Please stay with us.
I'm Keith Gaynor, running to be your next 12th District State Senator. It has been a privilege to serve you the past 6 years in the House of Representatives. I believe public safety is a critical issue that affects all of Washington. This should be one of our highest priorities. Washington families are struggling. Housing, food, and gas prices are severely affecting our budgets. We need to find better ways to support our families. Together, we can build a better Washington.
There's no place like home, because home is where we're totally comfortable. It's where we can be ourselves and let our guards down. It's where we make memories, and we're always imagining new ways to keep it totally comfortable. Carrier, total comfort, totally happy.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and Alpine Air. Heat and air, call Alpine Air.
The agents of Kennedy Real Estate Group are committed to providing the ideal client experience. We believe in the power of relationships. Why? Because we don't just work here, we live here. From the nonprofits we serve, the parks where we play, and the local businesses we support, our team understands the value of living in the Wenatchee Valley. Let's begin your real estate story.
The Lake Chelan Chamber of Commerce presents Wonders of Wooden Avenue.
Culinary Apple is North Central Washington's premier kitchen store with everything you need to elevate your own culinary experience.
For the most unique wine tasting experience in the Chelan Valley, visit One Wines. Popular for being the smallest and most intimate facility in the valley, it features 1 red, 1 white, and 1 rosé. Complex wines, simple elegance.
Wonders of Wooden Avenue, North Central Washington's premier shopping district.
We've been talking this week with Palisades rancher Molly Linville, who operates 6,000 acres of cattle land in Moses Coulee. When she and her husband inherited KV Ranch, Molly saw potential for improving the health of the soil and along the way turned a conventional farming operation into a more healthy place for cows to graze. You can find the full video and interview with Molly on our website at NCWLIFE.com. In tonight's feature story, here's the final part of our visit to Molly's ranch.
We, at that time, were farming the irrigated ground pretty traditionally. We were mostly raising alfalfa hay, and when we first got here, we actually had a farmer who was doing the farming for us, and did a great job and no complaints there, but it was inputs like fertilizer and herbicides, and that gets really expensive. I have turned those irrigated circles into perennial pastures. And so now the cows are here during the growing season, and then they can be out on the range ground on that good grass out there when it's dormant, because when it's dormant, you don't damage the grasses because they're not like, they don't get bitten off and then try to hurry and grow back. They just get bitten off and there's nothing, and then the cows move on naturally. So I've changed things around so that I can use both, but I can run twice as many cows on this irrigated ground as I could have out on the range ground. So even though it's much smaller acreages. After we changed from sort of, an alfalfa operation to just grazing, the grass that I seeded out here didn't look great. And I was like, oh my gosh, because the nutrients had already been sort of sucked out of the ground. And so then when I started, as you can see, the cows are close together and started rotationally grazing the cows through. So their manure added organic matter back to the soil. Grass needs a disturbance, like it needs to either be burned or nipped or mowed or something for it to signal to grow again. And so them eating the grass and then me giving the grass time to come back made these pastures just really come back to life. And we're learning a lot about like the biology in the soil. And for example, cow's saliva has bacteria in it that's important for the microbes in the ground.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a very symbiotic relationship. And so if you don't have that microbial activity in the soils, you don't have good growth from grass. And so it's been really fun watching this place spring back to life. When those fields started getting healthier, and by healthier I mean a wide range of plant species that are out there, the first thing that came back was amphibians that I hadn't seen since I had gotten here. And we had woodhouse toads, we have salamanders, we have tree frogs, we have all kinds of amphibians, and they're always kind of the canary in the coal mine, right, to tell you that you've got something wrong. So to see them come back with doing nothing other than not putting chemical inputs out there and seeding it into grasses was pretty exciting to me. With the cattle specifically, we're seeing much higher weaning rates on the calves. One thing, and we can measure some of that, which is nice, so it's not just a sort of a sense of it. The butter fat in these cows' milk, even in the beef cow's milk, is way higher on these diverse pasture mixes that they're eating on out here. And so higher butter content in milk creates a bigger calf every time. And that you just don't get if you're feeding hay or silage. And so there's that benefit. The moms are in such good condition that they breed back very well every year. So you get higher conception rates when the nutrients are high. And that's really important to your bottom line, to make sure that you get every one of those cows bred, because, that's a basically year-long process. And so if you get to the end of that year and you don't get a calf out of that cow, well, she's just cost you a bunch of money without giving back. And so being able to increase those is really important to your bottom line as a rancher.
Time now to take a look at your North Central Washington weather forecast. Hope you had a great Wednesday. Temperatures down just a little bit because of all that hazy conditions out there, as well as the increasing clouds that we've been seeing throughout the afternoon. Some thunderstorm activity that we'll talk about coming up in a bit as well. But outside our weather window, this is what the folks in Lake Chelan, this is the air quality at about 11 o'clock this morning. Unhealthy up in Lake Chelan. Things did get better though. Look how it cleared out for this afternoon, but Chelan still sitting at 176. That was mid-afternoon today, which is unhealthy air. On the other side of the coin, Wenatchee is in the 50s, which is moderate air quality. So much worse air as we get into Lake Chelan because of that Pioneer fire. And talk about heat, we are going to see it. Heat advisory now in place right through this coming weekend into Sunday. And look at some of these temperatures on Saturday Saturday and Sunday. Chelan 104 and 108. I think we will be closer to those numbers in Wenatchee as well. Omak has just been sweltering, and it will be 103 and 107 coming up this weekend. There is relief in sight. We'll talk about that coming up as well. 96 unofficially today. And like I said, I thought we'd get to about 100 degrees today, but with the cloud cover and haze, it kept our temperature down a bit. 89 is where we should be for this time of year. 105 our hot record, and that was set back in 1960. That one stood for a while. 70 our overnight low this morning. 63 is normal, and our record low 47 set in 1986. Sunrise this morning 5:22, and it sets tonight at 8:57. All right, getting you into those temperatures for Thursday, and it is going to be scorching hot tomorrow. 102 in Moses Lake and Ephrata, 103 for Quincy, Ellensburg, Wenatchee, up into Eniat and Chelan. 104 degrees for the folks up at Omak. That'll be our warm spot. 98 for Lake Wenatchee, 101 in Leavenworth, and 102 degrees tomorrow, your afternoon high in Kashmir. The reason high pressure just isn't going anywhere, that ridge goes all the way up into northern British Columbia. One thing about tonight, the thunderstorm activity will end. We should see some clearing with mild temperatures, lows around 70 degrees. And remember, we did see some of those gusty winds and even some lightning this afternoon and early evening. For Thursday, sunny skies, very hot. We just talked about it. Highs generally between 100 and 105 degrees. For Friday, sunny and still hot as this Pacific high regains some strength and pushes this low pressure system up to the north. We're going to see highs Friday again right around the century mark. And then this weekend, it is really going to get hot, sunny and even warmer on Saturday. Clear skies throughout Washington state. Again, we're talking highs between 100 and 105 degrees on Saturday. For Sunday, our hottest day by far. It's going to be sunny. Record highs are possible. Look at this deep, deep red for all of eastern Washington. 105 to 110 our afternoon highs on Sunday. On Monday, maybe a little bit of a breezy situation here in central Washington. Going to be sunny, still very hot. Even with that breeze, 100 to 105 on Monday. The good news is, as we get into Tuesday, sunny, breezy here in central Washington, but the key word, cooler. We're talking high temperatures on Tuesday into the mid-90s. All right, your 7-day forecast now. Overnight tonight, 71 degrees, and then just downright hot. 103 on Thursday, 100 on Friday. This weekend should be sweltering. 103 on Saturday, sunny with possible record highs Sunday. 106 our expected high temperature. 102 on Monday, and then that bit of a cool down. Probably feel pretty nice on Tuesday. Sunny skies with a high temperature of 94. And that's a look at your north central Washington weather forecast. Coming up next, tonight's sports report with Eric Granstrom and more as the NCWLIFE Evening News continues right after this.
And a happy Wednesday to you. For the 17th time in the last 21 games, the American League beat the National League in the MLB All-Star Game last night. Boston's Jarren Duran hit a 2-run home run to break a 3-3 tie to help the AL win 5-3 for his efforts. Duran was awarded the Ted Williams All-Star MVP. Mariners' Logan Gilbert and Andres Munoz did not play last night. Seattle will begin the second half of the season Friday with the first of 3 games against the Houston Astros at T-Mobile Park. The Mariners hold a 1-game lead over Houston in the American League West. Game time will be 7:10 on Friday, and you can watch it on Root Sports Northwest. As it turns out, 5 Wenatchee Apple Sox players are in Bellingham for the West Coast League All-Star Game tonight. Pitcher Garrett Ahern was added to the mix, along with pitchers Evan Canfield and Quincy Vassar. Catcher Jonathan Fitz and outfielder Max Hartman will also play for the North squad tonight at Joe Martin Field. Game will be broadcast on the MLB Network at MLB TV, that's .TV, MLB.com, and MLB's app. Wenatchee resumes play Friday at home against the Yakima Valley Pippins at 6:35 at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium. Well, anglers have a chance at big money for catching a big salmon this weekend with the Wenatchee Valley. It's the Wenatchee Salmon Derby. It kicks off Friday morning and runs through Saturday afternoon with over $7,500 up for grabs. Not too bad. As of last Friday, 42,947 Chinook salmon had crossed over Rock Island Dam, while a record run of sockeye salmon, number of about 500,000. I caught up with Derby Representative Bobby Loomis to get details on how fishermen can participate.
Tomorrow evening, we have a mandatory captain's meeting that everybody has to show up, get their packet to go out the next day and fish. Friday, fishing starts at dark 30. We have 2 weigh stations. We have a weigh station up at BB Bridge, and we will have one over in Hooked on Toys parking lot so that people can weigh in, if they're fishing down here lower or up higher. I should mention that this derby runs between Rock Island Dam and Wells Dam. Okay. So we're fishing this middle section here. And basically on Saturday, fishing will end at 2 o'clock is the last call for weigh-in, and we have a 5 o'clock award ceremony at the Eagles where everybody will show up, and by that time, they might have an embellishment or two, and, we'll hand out awards.
You have until 6 o'clock tomorrow night to register for the Derby online. You can do so at WenatcheeSalmonDerby.com. Well, we're spending some time this week on getting to know the Wenatchee Wild's new head coach, Don Knockbauer. Now, Knockbauer began his NHL career with the Hartford Whalers in 1979 and moved on to the Edmonton Oilers in 1980. This gave Knockbauer the chance to play with some very famous hockey players.
Matter of fact, the year I was in Edmonton, the team lost to the New York Islanders 4 straight. The following year, I went to Edmonton's training camp. I was picked up on waivers by the LA Kings, and then Edmonton went on a 4-year run of winning Stanley Cup. So they got me out of there, and they just started to win. and now that you mentioned Gretz, just so you know, my first year in Hartford, 79-80 season, Gordie Howe was on the team. And my idol as a kid, Dave Keon, who's still a friend today, but rooming with Dave was quite memorable and quite pleasurable. And to be honest with you, he's still a friend today. So it made my hockey career.
Knockbauer says he watched the transition of Winnipeg moving to Wenatchee before last season's WHL year and was impressed with what he saw.
I knew about the Wenatchee sale last summer. I was well aware of what was going on there, and just the process of being an expansion team and trying to coming into the Western League, especially coming out of the BC Junior, because the leagues run a lot different. So it was all interesting, and Bliss did a great job of the transition from the BC Junior to a Western League team. He had a lot to learn. He's done a great job.
Wenatchee inherited some great talent from Winnipeg, but had hardly any draft picks. Knockbauer says he's well aware of the situation and looks forward to getting to know his players and see what kind of talent the Wild have.
The Winnipeg team was a high-end team, and you saw some of those players coming to Wenatchee before they were traded to acquire assets. But those players were on a good team last year that had a chance, or their management thought that they had a chance to win the league and go to the Memorial Cup. So they sold a lot of their assets, meaning their draft picks and young players, which really hurt our franchise now because we have to recoup those assets somehow. And when you don't have picks, you've got to go out and find free agents. And usually the cupboards get picked through pretty good. In my experience in the Western Hockey League, I've had a lot of walk-ons that turned out to be great players. There's a lot of gems out there that go through the draft, and they draft players, as you know, at 14, 15 years old. And it's very difficult to project what they're going to look like when they're 18, 19. So you're drafting smaller players, and a lot of the smaller players get overlooked. And they turned out to be some of my best players. The second group of guys you can look at are players in the U.S., because the Canadian guys are all drafted. Not the U.S. guys aren't, but they're not heavily scouted like the Bantam leagues in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So we've got a big job ahead of us finding more talent for our younger age groups. and that's what we get paid to do. But our current team, I haven't seen players, and I don't want to prejudge them until I watch them live on the ice and see what their habits are and how they think the game. And through drills and through scrimmages, I'll get a pretty good feel. And once we see that, we'll determine what style of play, what our structure will look like. And I'd like to say we'd be run and gun, but if we don't have guys that can skate, pass a puck, or shoot a puck, that's not going to be conducive to a good system for our hockey team. So I'm going to have an open mind to what we have, and guys are going to get opportunities to play in different roles. And once we get through that initial phase of training camp exhibition games, we'll be hitting the ground running for the opening of the season.
That's Luck Sports News. I'm Eric Granstrom. Have a happy Wednesday.
I'm Grant Olson. Thanks so much for being with us, and have a great night.